Teo was a cheeky young boy with a playful spirit and a wild imagination. He had been given a precious gift by his grandfather, a handmade sling that his grandpa had once used for hunting. Grandpa had taught Teo how to use it properly, hoping he'd one day become a skilled hunter like him. But Teo had a different idea. Instead of hunting, he decided his new toy would be the perfect tool for causing all kinds of mischief. Teo's first victims were the neighborhood kids. He would hide behind trees and bushes, loading small pebbles into his sling. With a quick flick of his wrist, he'd send the pebbles flying, landing them right behind the children's feet. The kids would jump, startled, and look around in confusion, wondering who had done it. Teo would snicker from his hiding spot, loving how easy it was to scare them. One day, during a game of tag, he aimed a pebble right at a little boy's cap. It knocked the cap off, and the boy thought a ghost had done it, running away in tears. Teo could barely contain his laughter. Feeling proud of himself, Teo turned his attention to the village birds. Whenever he spotted them perched on rooftops or trees, he'd take aim with his sling. With one swift shot, he'd send them scattering, their loud squawks filling the air as they flew off in a panic. He found it hilarious. But one afternoon, Teo decided to challenge himself by aiming at a large hawk sitting on a high branch. The hawk didn't appreciate being disturbed. Teo missed, but the hawk swooped down, its sharp talons nearly grazing his head. Teo ran for his life, realizing he should be careful who he messed with. Not satisfied with terrorizing birds, Teo turned to the animals in the village. He'd launch pebbles at the goats and chickens, causing chaos in the animal pens. The goats would bleat and scatter, while the chickens squawked and flapped wildly, feathers flying everywhere. Teo thought it was the funniest thing he had ever seen. One day, he decided to mess with the village dogs, but his prank backfired when one large dog barked furiously and chased him all the way home. Teo barely escaped, slamming the door behind him, his heart pounding in his chest. But Teo's most daring mischief happened one sunny afternoon. The village princesses, who lived in the grand palace at the edge of town, were taking a bath by the river. They giggled and splashed in the cool water, completely unaware of the trouble that was about to come their way. Teo, crouched behind a bush, couldn't resist. He loaded his sling with a small pebble and aimed it carefully. With one swift movement, he sent the pebble flying straight into the water near the princesses, causing a big splash. The princesses screamed in surprise, looking around wildly. Teo, stifling his laughter, sent another pebble their way. This time, it splashed right in the middle of them. The youngest princess shrieked, convinced some river creature was attacking them. The other princesses hurried to gather their robes, eyes wide with fear, as Teo silently rolled on the ground laughing. He thought it was the greatest prank he'd ever pulled. Unfortunately for Teo, word spread quickly about his mischief. The villagers were growing tired of his constant pranks, and the princesses were furious. They reported the incident to the village elders, who were not amused. Teo's fun came to an abrupt end one day when he decided to show off to some older boys by aiming his sling at a beehive high in a tree. He boasted that he could knock it down with a single shot. With confidence, he pulled back his sling and let the pebble fly. It hit the beehive dead on, but instead of the bees flying away, they swarmed out, angrier than ever. Teo barely had time to run. The bees chased him down the village path, stinging him on his arms, legs, and even his face. He cried out for help, running as fast as he could, but the bees followed closely behind. By the time he reached home, Teo was covered in painful stings and begging for mercy. His grandfather, seeing Teo's swollen face and arms, shook his head in disappointment. "I gave you that sling to learn the ways of hunting, not to terrorize the village," he said sternly. As punishment, Teo's grandfather took the sling away and hung it up on the wall as a reminder of the trouble it had caused. From that day on, Teo was forbidden from using it again. No more pranks, no more mischief. Teo had learned his lesson the hard way. Sometimes, mischief comes back to bite you, or, in Teo's case, to sting you.